All right. Welcome in to the Questionable Podcast. We're live. We're live at 5, but it's not 5. It's 9:20 tonight. So what's up, Meko? How you doing?
Good, man. How about you?
Good. All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. This is the Questionable Podcast. You got Scotty Questions here with Meko, as usual. We do not have Gian Hendricks tonight. He is getting very busy with a youngster and
Yep.
other new opportunities. You know, we had the Grammys last night. Hopefully, John will be over there someday, one day.
Is that why he's so busy these days? Because
Yeah,
he's still just partying too hard from the Grammys, and he
I,
still hasn't quite recovered just yet.
I really think that's it. I think he's just on a huge hangy. He was out all night with Taylor Swift, and I just think that they're besties now. So
Makes sense. I mean,
I
John's a superstar, so it makes all the sense in the world that
he's certainly something. But yes, we have no Gian today, but Meko and I, as usual, we're gonna get into everything Lions today. But please hit that like, follow, subscribe button wherever you're listening and watching podcasts. Thank you for those who are viewing us right now. Again, this is a new thing. We're going live. It's gonna be more fun for us, more fun for you, and we got a lot of good stuff to talk about today. Also, please don't forget to head over to questionabletees.com for some of the best Lions merch in Detroit, obviously. And, like we said, new stuff coming. We got a new season next year. We're working on great new artwork, new pieces, new styles. So that's been really fun as well. We just had Darren McCarty over here yesterday. He stopped in. We're doing a D-Max signature line, so he wanted to check that out. That was cool. Yeah, man, so lots of stuff going on. But anyway, having said that, let's jump right in. So let's just start, Meko, right? Like, thoughts on the new Pro Bowl format. I know people have talked about it today, but
yeah, it's a hot topic, man. I mean, obviously, first and foremost, we had Lions at the Pro Bowl this year, so that was awesome. So Frank, Amon-Ra, Panay, Jared were all there to represent the Lions. That's a huge improvement, obviously, even just from last year, where no Lions player made the Pro Bowl. So it was a cool thing just to
right.
see all of those guys there. Um, but no, I'm kind of torn on the new format, right?
Okay.
There's elements of it that I like, and then there's elements of it where it's I guess it is the old fan in me that is still just I miss when the Pro Bowl was played like actual football. And I think that's the thing that makes football, I mean, again, it's unique from every other sport is that it can't necessarily be played the same way and, you know, be I mean, and still be safe, right? Like you can still play basketball and it still be very entertaining. You're like, okay, maybe they're not playing lockdown defense, but they're still playing basketball. Same with hockey. Okay, maybe no one's getting boarded, but they're still playing hockey at the end of the day. Football looks completely different when people aren't trying to hit people and when they're not trying to dislodge you from the ball and stuff like that. So it was different, but I don't mean that in a negative because as the Pro Bowl, specifically the Sunday games, after that first game, you saw it getting a little more competitive where guys are dude, I don't want to get beat in coverage because there's just that competitive edge to it. So they
Sure.
the players still brought that competitiveness to it. Um, but it's weird that they're playing flag football. It's just weird.
It is weird. I'm with you on that. What's interesting, I think, from a little bit bigger picture, right? I don't think that, other than basketball, I don't think that hockey or football has figured out what to do with it, right? We've gotten away from the game, right? That's over. No more game, no more pads,
Yeah.
right? So that's over. Um, I think, though, that I see what you're saying, that the players kind of got into it, and you have to keep in mind this is the first year of it for not only
Hmm.
the players but also the league. They don't know what they're doing. There's no rhythm. There's no sequence. They're trying to figure out what's going to work and what's not. And that was very clear. I thought it was pretty creative having the long snappers and punters do the
Oh yeah, the kick tack toe.
yeah, kick-tac-toe, that was pretty cool. I think the dodgeball thing to me is get over that, I guess. I'm more, if I had to remove one of them, It's probably like the dodgeball. I mean, it is funny, but like, I don't
See,
know.
I think for me, I think it would be for me it would be the best catch. The best catch to me could like I could do without that. Just because I can already see
Yeah,
that go. I can see that go the route of the dunk contest in the NBA, where maybe like the first couple years it's like it's entertaining, but there's only so many things that you can do before it just starts getting ridiculous. Like even this year, it was borderline ridiculous. Like Justin Jefferson trying to catch a ball from like
off the
the from
Eiffel
the
Tower
yeah off the
thing.
Eiffel Tower, and it's just like,
It wasn't
isn't that just
even.
like a reverse punt? Like,
Yeah,
isn't
like
that's
that.
all that
Yeah,
is?
I'm with you. I'm just glad Amon-Ra won, right? So I'm like cool with that because he won. Like Diggs couldn't even like catch the ball, so like that was weird to me too.
But
Like,
that's like I'm saying, like it's
God, he couldn't even
you have to do
catch.
something that's so
Like,
ridiculous that like you can't. But like it'd be cool if you can pull it off, but if you can't, then you have to do stuff like I'm with you. I'm glad Amon-Ra won. Again, it's another thing the Lions can kind of like puts us out in front. But I was watching Pride of Detroit earlier today, and Jeremy said this, and I couldn't agree with him more.
what did Jeremy say? I didn't hear it yet.
Like what Amon-Ra, like the catches that Amon-Ra had to like win and like to advance and stuff, most people with pools have already been doing for like years.
Right? Yeah, that's
Like flipping into the pool, catching a football, like I mean, I guess I would have been more impressed if he had one-handed those, but he wasn't. Like he was like body catching most of those, and it's like it's cool, but it's like anybody with a pool and a Nerf football can do that.
that's true. That's a fair point. I mean, so I thought the zip line catch was kind of interesting. I'm
That one was probably like, yeah, I honestly thought that that would have got more love because that is
same.
difficult. Like
Like he's
you're
going
coming at
30
some,
miles an hour, 35.
yeah,
Like he was flying in Leinert. I had to get it up to him. Like that
yeah,
was, I
yeah.
yeah,
I would have thought that would have
yeah.
got a little more love, but I mean, it's also Stephon Diggs, and like what Stephon Diggs wasn't like lame. The legs catch was like kind of lame because it didn't really like he caught it with his legs. It more so just
Just
like
like
landed in
laid it
his
down.
crotch
Yeah, that was
perfectly.
another thing. Like gratuitous crotch shots. Thanks. Like just
But like the first two were good, and then like the last one was like, eh. But yeah, for me, that was probably like the weakest part of it. Everything else, though, I think is always cool of just seeing like putting these guys' athleticism on display in ways that we don't really get to pay attention to. Specifically, like the offensive lineman when like Panay is like going
that was
through like
awesome.
these foam walls, and it's like, dude, like how much force you have to like initiate to get through those walls and still move at that
He
size.
was going so hard.
Dude,
He like was going so hard. Like dude,
dude, like
Amon Ra, they were just going like so hard at it. Like I just give them credit. They were like, and they were eating it up. I think that was my favorite part was just the way Panay and Amon Ra were just eating it up. I think Goff kind of
yeah.
like wanted to fade in the background. Ragnar was also in and amongst the crew, right? But I thought that it was really good for Amon Ra to be with those guys, right? The best of the
Yeah.
league, and deservedly so. He should be there. Golf to me was interesting because in the flag football game, like he didn't play the last game at all, right?
No, but he played the second one.
He
They all
played.
got a game.
They all got a game, but then
Yeah.
they split the last game
Did
between.
they? Who
Did
did?
Kirk play the whole game?
Yeah, like every quarterback got their whole game. So like the first game was Gino. Gino played the whole first game. Jared got the whole second game, and then Kirk got the whole third game.
Oh, see the problem that I had, and this could be it, is I had to rewatch. I was watching in pieces and had to rewatch it. We're running around, so I was trying to catch it, and yeah. But
Yeah,
anyways,
so yeah,
Goff
so
tripping over his own 2 feet though. Like
well, it's like
no,
I
don't.
think that was like the thing that like
It's like
taking away like and again, this was something that was cool, but then it like put on display like, dude, this is like flag football is a mobile quarterback game. Because if you can't move,
right.
like, bro, you get tripped up quickly. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't know how often they rush Kirk Cousins either, but like
Kirk
I
can
think a
move.
couple of the
Kirk can move
Kirk can
better
move
than
a
Goff
little,
though. Yeah, he can
yeah,
move a
he
little
can move a
better.
little more
Because he
laterally.
he did a couple of times and he was just fine. But Goff, he just caught his toe and I was like, no.
It was yeah, so but like I said, it was different, but I think it's something I could get used to because I think with All-Star games, the key to any successful All-Star game is how much energy the players put into it. If the players put enough energy into it, then they can easily get the crowd into it.
Yeah.
I was rewatching, or I was watching the new 30 for 30 for Baltimore.
Bullies of
Uh,
Baltimore.
yeah, and Ray Lewis was quoting Maximus from Gladiator, where he says, where the line is like, if you win the crowd, you win your freedom. Like I feel like all-star games are kind of like that. Like if you can win the crowd, like everything else, like the entire weekend is exciting because that's what they're feeding off. They're feeding off the players' excitement. So it's like that's what you have to kind of do to make all-star games and Pro Bowls and things like this exciting for the fans. And thus it'll be considered a success. No matter what they're doing, like in the background, whether it's dodgeball or kick-tac-toe or a I don't know, a sack race, they could make it entertaining as long as the players are, into it.
Yeah, that's true. And I didn't really get to see fans when they were doing the drills, but there was a lot of people there for the game. I mean,
There was a lot.
that
Yeah,
place was
people bought tickets,
packed.
man.
Yeah, they did, and it was really Derek Carr. Like that was funny. Like, hey, you
Oh,
lit
Derek
it up
Carr's comment
here,
was
but what are you gonna do? Clearly,
like,
that's
yeah,
not
his
why I'm gonna be back next year.
dude
Way
was,
to
I don't
go,
know.
D Carr.
Yeah, Derek Carr is it was hilarious. His comment to basically being like, yeah, like apparently this is why I won't be here next year.
Right, it's too good.
So
Too good. Goff didn't do too bad. He did pretty well in that accuracy. He could have had the most if he would have hit the checkdowns. He couldn't hit the little robot dummies running
bro,
around.
I don't know if it was just like I don't know, those little robots look like they were moving quickly.
Well, the drones on the side with the nets, those were flying. I'm talking about the stand up dummies like that, which went in a circle.
Oh,
Those were the ones he
yeah.
hit. He like 4 or 5 passes. He could have at least been second to Carr. Carr crushed it. But anyways, it was good to see the guys there. I think it's interesting. I know a lot of people like hated the format too. Like people are like, I didn't even watch it. I don't even care. It's like, well, I mean, and like I said, this is the first time the NFL's doing it, and the players once they get used to it, and I'm assuming they're going to keep it at Vegas. I'm assuming. I don't know if I've heard if it's
Yeah, I haven't heard one
moving.
way or another. I'm sure they'll probably move it though, just because again, that's another thing that'll drum up excitement, right? If you can put it in different cities and almost in a way find different activities in certain cities. Like, could you
Yeah.
imagine if they like had it in Denver during the winter and they could find like some sort of like it's all of a sudden like the winter pro games?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Like there's ways they can kind of keep it interesting by moving locations. And again, like for some of the games part, like some of these fans look like they were pretty close to the players as well. So again, it's just that access and to be able to, again, maybe you haven't gotten to see George Kittle play, but you can, find the money to go to the Pro Bowl events and you kind of get a close up of George Kittle or whatever else of other activities they have going on for Pro Bowl. So
Yeah.
I definitely think it's something that I think it'll something that like people will adapt to. But again, for people who are saying like, "Oh, I didn't even watch it," I think that's another thing we have to keep in mind. These things aren't for adults. Like they're honestly for kids.
That's a good
Like
point.
more than anything,
That's a good
they're for
point.
the kids.
It's for the kids.
And so like as long as like kids are excited about it and they're the ones that are watching it and they get to go like they're going back to school and they're talking about like, "Oh, did you see the best catch?" Like as much as like Jeremy and I are kind of like downplaying the best catch thing. Dude, there's going to be kids this summer that are going to be trying to recreate what amon-ra did at their pool house. Like, so, or at like the local pool or whatever. So at the end of the day, like that's all that matters. And I think that's all the NFL is really caring about.
Yeah, that's fair. They sold the tickets, so there you go. There were
End of the day, that's
people
all that matters.
there, right?
Yep.
What about the musical? Like, it was so the
Which,
who the music at halftime, the
oh,
performance.
dude, like I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of like music performances at these things because again, like
I know it's just
who
like,
cares?
yeah, we got to figure out something. Something, what would be interesting? What I always like is at hockey games when you get the fans on the ice and like shoot the puck in the net from the other end. Or in hockey, they also put on those big balloon suits, and it's like three
Sure.
versus three. Kick the giant puck in, and you're hitting it. Like to me, that's a little bit more interactive. That could be interesting. Probably tough on a football field, but you could do stuff like that. Want to get the fans involved at
No, you
halftime?
could absolutely do stuff like that where
Like,
you basically like partner up players with fans and you do like you can almost do like relay events, right? So like
Yeah.
again, like if you had to do like a three-legged race and you like put like a kid with, I don't know, Panay Sewell. Like, you know how hilarious that because you know every offensive lineman eventually would just pick up the kid and just be like,
Right.
I'm gonna
And just
carry you
go.
to the
Yeah.
finish line.
Totally. Yeah. They got to sign a waiver though, just in case they fall on the kid. But yes, but
But
yes,
like,
that.
yeah, there's
I mean, but look
but I
at the.
think like
Yeah. Well,
to your
the.
point,
Yeah.
that's the advantage that I think that football has is that there's a lot of things like football activities that you can do that you can incorporate fans in to make it this type of like collaborative event to where you're not just a spectator but you actually get to contribute. Like that's hard to do in basketball when everybody is 6 feet and taller. Like you can't really like the most you can contribute is a pass. There's
Right.
nothing
A
else you can
pass.
do.
Yeah. You could do the half court. You get the half court shot that they did. I mean, that's really about. Yeah, not much for hoops.
Yeah.
But anyway, but that's the thing is all of these events are becoming interactive. I mean, look at the Grammys last night. They had the fan section at the Grammys, and they brought them up at the end, and
Hmm.
Andy had one of the fans open it. Like, it's just that's kind of what all these events are doing. So I'm assuming we can expect to see some of that. That should be interesting too, depending on the city and where they're at. But yeah,
No,
overall,
for
I
sure.
thought it was kind of funny, entertaining. The Manning brothers against each other. I mean, it was fine, right? It was fine. What are they going to do next year, right? What's next year? It's always cool to see Ray Lewis though. Like, dude, still
Yeah, I think, and
like,
again, I think the NFL has such a rich history. You can pull from so many different rivalries throughout the years, right? You could do a Barry Sanders coaching versus Emmitt Smith. There's a lot of stuff you can do for the Pro Bowl. So I think like while this is different, I do think they can hit on something if they execute it properly.
yeah. So anyway, yeah. Anything else for the Pro Bowl? Trying to think. Like, yeah, well, that was
No,
it. RG
no,
three.
that was pretty much it.
RG3's been really funny too. I think RG3's entertaining as in his commentary. Like, he's been really good.
I think he's very underrated in what he's capable of doing. I think
And
I follow him on Twitter, and he's a good Twitter follow.
yeah, like I just think that he really asks good questions because he was there and he just kind of wants to know and communicate that. And he does know, what's going
Hmm.
on, because it wasn't too long ago. He theoretically could still be playing, if
Yeah,
those darn
no,
knees,
absolutely.
man, those darn knees. so, so anyways, all right, having covered that, I think we covered that enough. Is there anything else? No, that's about it.
No, that's
Let's hop
about
into
it.
Lions news. Lions
Yeah,
news.
dude, it's so this is like the downside of us doing a podcast once a week is that like we have to catch up on everything that's happened because
Lions news. Lots of
it's
it.
a lot of coaching stuff, right? And I think we first got to start off with the news that Deuce Staley is leaving for Carolina. Um, that was not the news I was expecting. Of all the coaching
No,
potential moves this offseason, Deuce Staley leaving for Carolina was nowhere on my bingo board. Um, but again, as we've gotten information about, obviously Deuce is having some, family situations going on and he
right.
wants to be closer to his mother at this time. You can't help but just respect Deuce and the team for honoring him and respecting him enough to basically let him go to Carolina and not being so single-minded to be like, well, we're trying to, and be single-minded on what they're trying to do. Um, so as much as it sucks to see Deuce leave, I still kind of applaud the team for even making the move and not quote unquote holding him hostage here.
Yeah, and I wouldn't expect Dan and those guys to do that, right? They want them to go out and do and get whatever they can. I'm sure Dan was very supportive of Ben Johnson too, right? In the same breath, but it's really nice
Yeah.
to see him back.
Hmm.
Sad to see Deuce go, but also, right? We got some new blood, some new Lions blood coming in. After that, right? So we have Dre
Yeah.
Bly, Scotty Montgomery, Tanner Engstrand, probably said that wrong, and Steve Hyden.
Yeah. I mean, there's some new coaches coming in here. I mean, I think obviously the big name is Dre Bly, obviously former Detroit Lions cornerback. So there's a lot of excitement about Dre being here, and for all of these coaches, like I evaluate coaches, or my excitement for coaches varies from like when we acquire players, right? Because I think with coaches, there's so many unknowns. Like no matter what they did in a previous place, there's no guarantee that that success translates to here. So you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt.
Now,
I
having said
like,
that, does that mean that also their past, won't come with them too? Right. So does that go
well,
both ways or?
it could, right? Like someone, I mean, let's take Dre Bly, for example, right? Coming from Carolina, the word on Dre Bly so far is that like, hey, those DBs did not play great. His Carolina DBs were not, top of the class, top of the, in that regards of talent. So there's a lot of questions on like, okay, well, how good of a cornerback coach is he if these players aren't some of the best corners in the country? I would argue that and say, do you think Carolina is getting the best quality of talent at that position? Um, so it's kind of like a give and take where it's like maybe he's, I'm not saying that he's the greatest cornerback coach in the country, but at the same time, he has an extensive career where there has to be something he's able to teach these guys. There has to be some level of, knowledge that he can pass on to the Lions players that they can definitely translate into their own game. Um, in the same sense with Scotty Montgomery, the one thing, you and I and John were talking earlier, and John's like, was kind of high on Scotty Montgomery because, hey, Scotty Montgomery coached Jonathan Taylor, and Jonathan Taylor had this amazing season. And it's like, that's true. And sure, Scotty Montgomery deserves some credit for that, but it's also Jonathan Taylor.
Right.
Like, let's not forget that Jonathan Taylor is also
JT.
just a beast.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of give and take, but I think with any of these coaches, I think the consistent theme that we're seeing, and I think that's where the positive should come in, is that like you can see the culture fit. You can see that like, okay, these guys are they fit Dan's mold, they fit the same mold as AG, they fit the mold of Ben Johnson. And so there should be really good collaboration and there should be able to all get on the same page and hopefully next season execute game plans, as close to perfect as they can.
Yeah. I mean, we'll have to see, right? Part of what you're saying, I really agree with. Like, we can't judge them on what they've done, like, because this is a different place. Like, the Lions is such a different, from what we've seen, a different
Mhm.
coaching staff, a different type of team, and so they might be able to have more effect here too, like more influence. We don't know. I mean, Dan seems to really empower the coaching staff, and it'll be interesting to see those guys grow within our culture, right? That has been created already. So they're coming in, and it will be interesting to see how they, assimilate into that because, right, we've got the culture. They're coming in. They're going to have some of their own things too. They're bringing, right. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But hopefully all for the positive, right? I mean, really, I don't see tons of negative on these new coaching hires in
No, I don't
general.
think there's I don't think
So
there's anything I don't think there's anything that like Lions fans should be disappointed about. Because I think again, no matter the success that Dre Bly had at North Carolina, I still think you can look at his career and be like, there has to be some amount of wisdom. That doesn't mean that he's a great teacher, but I mean, again, he still did coach 4 years at Carolina, and Dan thought highly enough of him, and the rest of the coaches thought highly enough of him. AG probably thought highly enough of him to hire him. So it's not just a matter of like he's a name. Like there has to be some amount of knowledge that you think that he's able to hand down to your young corners, which I think is another important part to keep in mind. If the Lions do go into this offseason and decide to draft some more corners, well, it's a young group. You can get a
right,
guy who's used to working with young guys.
right.
And so he won't be, expecting too much from them and put too much on their plate, but will actually, teach them the game, week in and week out. Um, Scotty Montgomery, I think is
Dre Bly,
very
let's fly.
I I think
Ah,
Scotty Montgomery though for me is probably like the most interesting hire because again, you're losing Deuce. The running back room is a strong group for you with Jamal and Swift, Craig
Ve-
Reynolds
yeah,
and Justin Jackson.
very important group for us too, right? That's the engine. That's
Absolutely.
the engine right there. To
Absolutely. And so you get another coach where in Scotty Montgomery, where one thing that I do put a lot of credence in is like his versatility on the offense. So he's been an offensive coordinator. He's worked with wide receivers. He's worked with running backs. He's touched enough of the offense to where you feel really good about his level of input and influence on this Lions team going forward. And then not to mention, there's that little caveat there that, he may be an RPO expert and what that could potentially mean for the Lions. Not necessarily this season, but in seasons to come.
Welcome to Detroit.
yeah, I mean that's what we need. Like we said, that's the engine. That's what's going to keep Goff open. That's what we're working with. So again, we'll see what happens with him. We'll see if we draft a running back and what that looks like too. It's all right now, cookies and candy. Just wait
Well, I
and
was gonna say,
see
like
what's going. I mean, like, right?
I mean, you look at these coaches that they've hired this offseason. It's a lot of stuff on the offensive end. It's a lot of, I mean, you get a new tight ends coach. Tanner's getting promoted to pass game coordinator. Scotty Montgomery's your new running backs coach. I mean, it. I think there's going to be a little more movement on the offensive side than people originally expected. I know a lot of people are screaming defense, and the defense does need help. But I just wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing some offensive, whether it's draft picks or free agents, come in here, and it's probably going to be a little more than people are going to be comfortable with at the start.
Yeah. So, and speaking of that, I think we can. I mean, I think that's all great. I mean, do we want to touch on AG right now?
I
Then,
mean,
while we're
yeah, AG's
right.
another, right? I mean, he's still technically kind of floating out there for the Colts job. Obviously, news broke this week that the Cardinals have slimmed down their list. They have about four guys that they're kind of choosing between, and unfortunately, AG didn't make that cut, but he's still up for the job in Indianapolis, along with 20 other people. I don't know how many coaches. They
45 people.
they are looking. Listen, I'm of the belief they want to hire Jeff Saturday so badly. They just don't want to get trolled. They got trolled so hard the first time they hired Jeff Saturday, and people were like, "Bro, how are you hiring this dude with no experience?"
Yeah.
That I think they're hesitant to do it again. But it just feels like they want to at least be like, "Oh no, we interviewed. See how many people we interviewed? We put them through three interviews, and Jeff Saturday stood out above them all." I'm gonna call BS. I just am.
Yeah. About
But
that.
But the good news is that that'll probably mean that we get our defensive coordinator back. And the good news in that, even though again, AG's defenses haven't performed at the top of the league standard, is that it's another year in the system for all of these guys. It's another year for Aiden. It's another year for James Houston, for these young guys to really submerge themselves into AG's system and really start to develop and become better players going into their second and third years for some of the other guys.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just glad. I mean, hopefully, right, it all works out. He comes back. I think that's the big takeaway here. Consistency, and then any additions we can get in free agency. Right. We always go to the draft, but in free agency, that we'll see what happens there. Like I'm curious to see that, right, free agency and how aggressive we get in the draft. I mean, there's just who knows. Like I'm saying,
Yeah.
it's like November, like early December before Christmas, and we're not even like that close to the draft yet, closer to free agency. It's just oh
I mean, yeah, it's that same feeling though, like you're saying with like Christmas, where I think all of us as fans want to know what the new shiny toy the Lions are going to get. And so it's like whether it's free agency or whether it's the draft, like what is the new pieces that we're going to add to this thing to put us a step closer to being like true contenders next year.
I know that other piece on the opposite side of Aiden just sounds real nice, like real nice.
I'm like warming up to it. A lot of mock drafts are coming out and they're obviously like predicting an edge at certain positions. And one half of me is like but you already have Romeo. Like currently, you have Romeo, Charles Harris, James Houston, and technically Josh Pascal, depending on like how often they want to play him on the outside, and you have Kaminsky that can play on the outside as well. It's a lot of guys that can play the edge, and I forgot Julian as well.
Yeah.
And so it's hard for me to like come to grips with that they may end up drafting another defensive edge player.
Game records
But
only, please.
right. And I guess that's the only thing I can
Based
kind of
on our
like
conversation last week, for those that don't know, check out last week's.
I guess that's the only thing I can kind of like, yeah, like lean on is like, well, look, if you're getting really good guys that can get to the quarterback, then it's hard to complain about that.
Yeah. Ugh. I know. I just want to open the gift. It's under the tree and it's sitting there. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And the longer
No,
it sits there, and it's like this is my like metaphor. It's like a weird shape. I'm like, but it's big. It's like, what is it? I want to know.
that's gonna be the thing that's gonna be cool to talk about again, like all off season is, I mean, as we get closer to free agency, the speculation is gonna be flying as far as like, do the Lions spend? Who do they prioritize as far as re-signing?
Yeah.
There's a lot of talk. I mean, again, I feel like we all feel very confident that Jamal's coming back. I feel like that's a no-brainer. But then, like, what do they do with DJ Chark? Do they re-sign him? What do they do about Isaiah Buggs? What do they do about Alex Anzalone? Um,
I
Players
know.
that I think we think are no-brainers, but again, I think there's a possibility that Detroit is a hot spot next year. That a lot of players
Come
want to come here.
on.
Dude, you got to look at like you have a good culture fit. Your
I
coach
know.
is
I'm
a
just
player's
giving.
coach.
I
Your
mean,
division could be winnable, right? Depending on what the hell happens with Aaron Rodgers. And you guys are showing some fight. You're one of the young up and coming teams that like certain free agents may put at the top of their list of like, yo, I want to go there. I think I can help that team, get over the hump. Oh, and I forgot to even mention, you've taken some players that were quote unquote discarded by other teams and put them in prominent roles where they've shined. John Kaminsky, Isaiah Buggs,
Bugs.
Khalif Raymond, like it could be a hot spot for some players where they're just like, you know what? Yeah, it's Detroit. No, it's not a hot spot as far as media and all that type of stuff, but like, yo, those dudes want to play ball.
Well, that's what
And
that's what I was saying last year. It's almost like the rehab of the NFL. Like, come to Detroit, rehab your career. You know what I mean? Get it fixed.
at the very least, right? At the very least,
Right.
you can probably come here and get a 1 year deal
Yeah.
and probably maximize it and flip that into a 2, 3 year deal.
Yeah. I mean, again, that goes back to the coaching staff and knowing what situations to put the players in to get the best results, right? And I think there's something to that, right? Like,
Yeah.
is the Super Bowl's coming up as like an Andy Reid can do, right? With Mahomes and the way in which he, it was interesting listening to him talk about how he helped like Patrick grow, right? He loves helping
Mhm.
quarterbacks grow into what he
Yeah.
needs and to help them. Like, that's the thing. So so they don't have bad habits, at least in his system, he can
Yeah.
just get right to the source. So yeah, I mean, man, it's just a lot, and it's exciting. It's also annoying. It's like not, it's not tomorrow. We got a lot of time. We got a lot of things to happen, and free agency first, right? So
Yeah. And speaking of lots of things having to happen, one thing has already happened in this division
yeah,
that I'm trying to figure out. Like, I'm interested in your opinion if this is a big deal or not a big deal. But the Minnesota Vikings have hired a new defensive coordinator. They've hired former Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores as their new DC. Big deal or no big deal?
ooh, I'm kind of like no big deal because the offense has, I mean, we saw what the offense was, right?
Hmm.
They they can come back, they go ahead, and then I mean, it just they don't seem that consistent on the offensive side of the ball. Um, but I I mean, it'll certainly help the defense, right? I think that
Yeah.
I think it's an upgrade, right? I'll go with that. It's an upgrade for them. So that's always concerning to us, but I do think that we are on our way, right? I think that as far as the Lions go, I think we're the only ones that can beat us at this point with the way, if we continue to build this draft and in free agency and add those pieces, I think the next 2 years, we're going to be our own worst enemy at times, right? Mentally. So I think we can handle all these teams, but no, I don't think it's. I really don't think it's I don't think it's a huge deal. Now, maybe I'm taking it too lightly, but I didn't. I saw that and was like, okay. Now, what do you think?
I think it's a big deal because I
Okay.
think Minnesota's biggest weakness last year was their defense, and in a from the outside looking in or the outside listening in, a lot of blame was placed on their defensive coordinator that their just defensive coordinator just didn't know what to do and didn't know how to maximize those players. And I think when you look over at that Minnesota defense, I mean, they still have Danielle Hunter, they still have Harrison
Yeah,
Smith.
they have good players.
Um, they Patrick Peterson is a little bit older, but he's still a viable and reliable corner over there. Lewis Seen is probably going to come back from his injury and hopefully make a healthy recovery. I mean, again, hopefully in the sense of like he continue to play football. Um,
Right.
but yeah, like I saw Brian Flores take a Miami Dolphins defense that I think had a lot of young pieces and a lot of people weren't really always expecting the most out of them. And that defense like rose to the occasion more often than not. And so I think in a division where the Lions could easily be number one, Minnesota is making the right moves to at least try to hold on to that number one spot. Right. And so we'll see. Obviously, like, I mean, again, they're in the same boat we are. Everybody that's not in the Super Bowl this week is in the same boat as we are. You're waiting until free agency, you're waiting
Right.
for the draft because you want to see what you can add. I just think Minnesota, they could probably continue to add some pieces. And again, I think they could have a really decent sales pitch as well. Is that like, hey, you come to Minnesota, you can be on the number one team in the division, you can go to the playoffs. Like, and that's strictly just based off of what they did last year. Detroit, you have to sell the idea like, hey, we need a couple pieces and we can get there. Minnesota's just like, we've been there and we just need, hey, you can help us solidify that a little bit better. So it's a big deal to me because again, like I like some of Minnesota's pieces defensively. Danielle Hunter, Zadarius Smith, Harrison Smith. So a lot of Smiths over there. Eric Henderson is still over there. They got some guys on defense, but again, I'm not necessarily saying I would take their defense over ours. I'm just simply saying that like with those pieces and competent coaching, that's a defense that could flip it around on you.
I hope not.
I hope not either. I mean, I hope that our offense continues to take strides and continues to be a headache for defenses. So again, it's still that chess match that's going on. But I mean, Brian Flores, at least currently how it looks, is an upgrade for them.
Yeah. I'll agree that's an upgrade. I mean, yeah. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, we'll see. Yeah, I don't know. I think if we can add the pieces we want to add, I mean, all roads should hopefully go through Detroit. But we got to win games, and we took a step this season, but we got to take another step. So we should expect to win those games. And Brian Flores or not, we should be beating the Vikings.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, that's the road to the playoffs starts with that, right?
Yeah.
Winning your division. And the Lions came, I mean, the Lions had the best division record. I mean, again, amongst those teams, the only thing that killed them, slow starts to the season.
Yep. Can't do it. Not gonna do it.
Can't have those at all.
Not gonna do it. You better not do it. Stop it. You stop it right now, guys.
But speaking of playoffs, speaking of Super Bowl, we have the Super Bowl
Playoffs
coming up.
Sorry.
Yeah,
We're talking about playoffs. Is that is that Herm Edwards?
Yes, it was, I believe. Yeah,
playoffs.
It was.
We're talking about playoffs.
Speaking of which, that was hilarious watching the Baltimore's 30 for 30 when like they were like, yeah, we can't even say the word. They couldn't say playoffs until
I haven't watched it yet. I gotta.
Oh,
that's on the tab for tonight. Watching it tonight.
It's hilarious. The coach basically was like, yeah, you guys can't say it until you've earned it.
Tonight at Vizo's. The Bullies.
And he basically was like, well, they were going to be fined. It was all this other stuff, but
seriously,
great documentary.
So they were going to fine him
if they said playoffs. Yeah.
Oh wow. Playoffs.
Yeah, it's a great documentary. If you guys haven't seen it, It's a great 30 for 30. 30 for 30 are always pretty good, but yeah, this is a really good one.
They're always dramatic, the music. They just pull from the dramatic music, slow cuts, slow motion, then quick cuts.
It was, yeah.
It's great.
But
Okay, go ahead.
But no, yeah. So we have Super Bowl. I mean, yeah. I mean, I think this is going to be a good one. You have Kansas City Chiefs versus Philadelphia Eagles, Patrick Mahomes versus Jalen Hurts. In other areas of the world, this is called the Kelsey Bowl. Jason Kelsey versus Travis
Oh
Kelsey.
my gosh, I know, dude.
But I mean, when you look at the Super Bowl matchup,
Yep.
right? And again, yes, this is not your typical Lions talk. We are just going to talk Super Bowl because it's the biggest game of the year in the football world. So
It
we're
is
gonna
what
talk
it
about
is. We're all gonna watch it. Whoever's listening here, whoever's gonna listen, of course we're watching it. Whether you're gonna watch it for Rihanna at halftime, ladies, or we're gonna watch the game. I mean, we're gonna watch it. We're gonna also hear news. We're gonna, Sean Payton conversations. Just to the I mean, we'll probably the Colts head coaching. A lot of news coming out. So yeah, everyone's gonna watch it.
Yeah, so we might as well talk about it a little bit.
Yeah.
In your opinion, who do you think needs the Super Bowl win the most?
Mahomes.
Mahomes needs this more?
Right now, yeah. I mean, I think this is Mahomes in order not to turn into an Aaron Rodgers. Like, he's so talented. It's just getting to a Super Bowl and winning a Super Bowl. I think those are so hard to do. You see the guys that couldn't get it done, so talented. Dan Marino. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, right? MVP all over, but like he's been to one. He was 1-1. So like that's it. Like, I mean, now if he ends up in Oakland, I mean, we could be talking about, we could be a year early on what we said this season, right? Remember you and I were calling.
Oh yeah,
Raiders
we were picking
sleepers.
Oakland.
We might be a year early. If Aaron Rodgers goes over there and relinks up with Devontae Adams, look out, because it is going to back to whatever.
I'm still convinced that McDaniels sabotaged Derek Carr just so that he could get Aaron Rodgers. If that happens, I'm gonna be pounding that drum.
I mean,
that McDaniels set up Derek Carr the whole way.
Maybe. I don't know, but Aaron Rodgers was interviewed, side note, at the Pro-Am, and he was interviewed talking about, well, I was asking people to cheer for where I should go. There's a lot of Raiders fans out here. It's like, okay. Your subtle hints are not subtle. Like, you're just so it's just funny.
Dude,
like,
if he goes,
he's so crafty. It's like, bro.
Dude, if he ends up in Oakland, NFL needs to do a deep investigation on some type of tampering.
Right. I mean, because Derek Carr. I mean, you got San Francisco. If they do anything, I don't know. Who knows? There, Miami.
He already shot that down. He said not San
Jets.
Fran.
He did. I didn't even hear that.
Yeah, I think it was at the same Pro-Am. Someone was like, so you want to tell us where you're going next year? He was like, not San Fran.
Oh boy. Anyway, so that'll be interesting to see what happens there, because I do think Aaron Rodgers probably ends up somewhere else. The more I'm hearing, I think that might happen. But anyway, back to the question: who needs it more? I think Mahomes needs to win this one just to kind of put it to bed. I've won 2, and then he, because Kansas City, they're getting older, right? Let's be honest. Yeah. I mean, Kelsey's not that young. I mean, Mahomes he's younger and he can play for a long time, but these injuries for him, this ankle is consistently a problem in the playoffs, right? He's always got something kind of lingering. I remember him hobbling around last playoffs, but I think that he's got to get this done. I think that Kansas City's got to get it done. I don't know how much longer Andy Reid's going to be coaching, right? He's getting older. What does this team look like? And to that point, I mean, Andy Reid's been there for 8 years now?
Sure, let's say so.
It's around.
It feels like he's been there forever. I forget that he's been with the Eagles, but
7 or 8 years. And think about it. Mahomes' first I was actually watching, they were doing a deep dive on it. About Andy Reid, and I was trying to compare him to, no comparison, but comparing the timeline with the Lions and Dan Campbell, because the Chiefs had some talent, but they weren't going anywhere fast, and they needed a culture change. And so I don't know why that got so high.
You had to reach deep down in your sack for that one.
I did. I gotta get down in it here, right here. But so they needed a culture change. Andy Reid came in, and it took him. It was 6 or 7 years before he won the Super Bowl that he was coaching there.
Yeah.
So, which then made sense. Okay, 6-year deal with Dan Campbell and company, right? So so that to me is what I'm kind of expecting then toward the end of these guys, our coaches, our tenures, when we should be there, right? Like one of the teams. So that actually like level set me because I always think we could do it this year. Like we got more talent, right? Each year, especially John, the Kool-Aid. But that actually, the way in which they talked about it and showed it, I was really curious to see like how long it took. And it's like, all right, like, okay, pump the brakes a little bit. So yeah, we gotta, but then you have the Giants team, right, with the helmet catch that was like lightning in a bottle, like that came out of nowhere, right? They
Well,
were
and
supposed,
that was gonna be my pushback because like I agree with you that like I think Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs need this way more than Jalen Hurts and the Eagles do.
yeah,
And it's strictly based around the fact that like the AFC is just more competitive right now.
yeah.
Like
That's a logical,
to
great
your
reason.
point, the Chiefs are getting older while you have teams like the Bengals that are still very young. I do feel like Josh Allen's going to figure it out eventually. Like one of these seasons, like they're going to figure it out and they're going to go on a run. They're also young. Um, yes, potentially if Aaron Rodgers decides to go to Oakland, like that's another team you have to contend with. The Chargers are young. There's a lot of teams in the AFC that are like up and coming. I still think Lamar Jackson's gonna get paid, and I think they're gonna finally build the team around him the right way. That's another
I
young
hope
team that
so
you're gonna
for
have to deal
him.
with. Right. So there's a lot of obstacles in the AFC where it's like, hey, if Patrick doesn't start capitalizing on these, he's just going to be in a dogfight every other year with all of these other great quarterbacks. On the flip side, Jalen Hurts can still like improve his game. Like as great as he played this year, he still has so much room to
Yeah,
improve.
right.
And to the point where like if especially if Aaron leaves or even if Aaron doesn't, because Aaron's getting older, Jalen Hurts could easily be like the best quarterback in the NFC next year,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yes. Yes.
like you start looking at the
It's
NFC and it's like, well, hell, as long as Jalen Hurts is healthy, that defense continues to play the way they're playing, and they find like, and they don't give him too much money too soon. Hell, there's no reason the Eagles couldn't just constantly be that team that's always a threat to make it to the Super Bowl. Until there's some young quarterback that comes up that's like all of a sudden starting to like really challenge that like it is in the AFC. So for me, it is. It's Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. Like they really need to capitalize on the Super Bowl to do exactly what you said, so that
yeah.
Patrick isn't in this group of guys like Rodgers and Breeze, where it's like, yo, super talented, somehow only got one Super Bowl.
Right. Right. Because I do think that he is such a special playmaker that I do think that he has kind of in my just to me like just emotionally I feel like he's kind of earned it to be like just some of the stuff he can do out
Mm-hmm.
there, his creativity as a quarterback, I think just as a creative and seeing how his mind works, it's like how who else would have seen that, or some of those shovel passes I'm sure they practice and he knows, but
Yeah.
like some other ones are like, okay, like even nobody, the guy catching it didn't even expect it, but they all know, be ready to catch it because it could be coming to you.
Yeah.
So to me, yeah, they need to do it. They got to do it. I think they can't. I hope his ankle holds up. That's a big, question mark. Hopefully it's obviously better than it was last game. He's had a little bit more time,
Yeah, like
but
2 weeks arrested.
yep,
So
two
yeah.
weeks rested. But again, if somebody falls on it, you know what I mean? Like just that
But I think that's the beauty
again,
of
that's the game. That's the
that's the
game.
beauty of Patrick Mahomes' game though, right? Because as much as his ankle was hurt in the last game, still was making throws, still was able to gut it out. And I would argue, because I don't know if anyone has ever anointed Patrick Mahomes as the face of the league, but a Super Bowl win this year would do that for him to me. Like from now on, like this is Patrick Mahomes' league. Because I think for so long it was, it was Tom Brady, it was Aaron Rodgers, it was all these other guys. I don't
Yeah,
know if
that's
we've ever
fair.
truly anointed Patrick Mahomes as the face of the league.
That's fair. Consistently in the playoffs, championship. Yeah, and Brady retired. So that's ship sailed. So yeah, after
You give him a Super Bowl win, like that's the face of your franchise.
yeah,
I think
because
if
he's
Jalen
got
Hurts wins
two
it, Yeah, 2 Super Bowls. He hasn't. Does he have an MVP?
Mahomes?
Yeah, I'm surprised if he doesn't, I'd be shocked.
I think he does. Yeah, the same. Like, I think he does. But
But I mean, like, yeah, he
his
has. I mean,
MVP was his second season, I
he's
believe.
got right. So he's got the talent. He would have the Super Bowls. He would have at least an MVP. We're talking about. He has the commercials. Like he's got the notoriety to be the face of the league,
Well, the personality, right? I think is what he's got a
and that
personality. He's
too,
not a he's
and that
not a
too.
he's not a doorknob, right?
No, he's not a doorknob, and he's not his brother. His brother's a freaking tool, man. I'm sorry. His brother is a tool. But
Okay. Anyway, so yeah, so we agree that Kansas City's got to have it. I think they can do it. Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been activated as well. I think that I don't know if he's going to play, but if he does, that would certainly help.
yeah, I think you can definitely. I mean that. Well, I guess that kind of segues into our next question because I think the
Yeah.
biggest thing that
See what I did
KC
there?
has to deal with
Yeah.
is this defense, right? So I mean, when you look at this game and you look at this matchup, I mean, which would you rather have? Would you rather have Philly's defense or Kansas City's offense?
Um. Foo, foo, foo. I would rather have Kansas City's offense. I know defense wins championships, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Kelsey is just like you can't stop him. Like, I'm sorry. We'll see if Philly can.
Well,
But
and that's why like I'm going the other way. I'm picking Philly's
I
defense.
figured you would.
4 guys with 10 plus sacks is unheard of. Is
Yeah.
just ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just like it's just good pass rushers. You also have amazing corners. And so while I think Patrick needs this Super Bowl, while I think Patrick may even like get like probably would pick like if it wasn't for my family ties, I would pick Kansas City, right? If it wasn't for family ties, I would pick Kansas City. But Patrick is going to be like, it's not going to be an easy walk in the park, in my opinion. You got some dudes on that defense, Slay, um, Hassan Reddick, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham. Just that defense is stacked from top to bottom.
Yeah.
And you're
No, it's
telling
crazy.
me that, again, yes, Patrick makes magic happen, but his best offensive weapon is Travis Kelsey, which is a tight end, and the rest of his receivers are like question
MVS.
marks.
MVS.
Like, right, it's a bunch of guys that again, good quarterbacks make look good. Patrick makes them look better than they are. But
Kadarius
against
Toney.
those, but against that defense, nah, bro. Nah.
We'll see. Hey, we'll see. It's Andy Reid, though. It's Andy
Well,
Reid with the
I think
offense.
that's
It's a little bit of
well,
Andy Reid.
and that's the thing that gives them a chance, right? You have one of the best offensive minds in football and arguably the most talented quarterback in the league right now. Going up again, like you would want no other better matchup to go up against a defense like this. The only thing that I would sit there if I were, if I was a KC fan, I would wish I had a few more weapons. Like you said, getting Clyde Edwards-Helaire back
Right.
is helpful.
Yeah, that's helpful.
If they still had Tyreek and they were going into this matchup, I think it'd be way more even. It'd be way more even if they had Tyreek.
Yeah, agree. Well, yeah, I mean, because their secondary is like really solid too. I mean, you got Slay there. I mean, he's been playing great, which is
And I
so
think,
annoying.
yeah, and I mean again, like so you combine like
Thanks,
great secondary
Patricia.
play with amazing defensive line play, like
God, I hate
Kansas
Matt
City's going
Patricia
to
so
get
much.
theirs. They're going to get theirs. Okay, like no doubt. I don't think it's going to be something ridiculous where like they get shut out. But I also think
No,
Patrick's going to get hit a lot. Patrick's going to get hit a lot.
that's why I worry about his ankle. Like, no matter how much it's healed, like they're gonna be pressure. They're gonna be on him. They're gonna be pushing back his old line. Right. I worry about that. Like that's, yeah.
Yeah, it makes you feel like they're going to have to put him on the move, right? Like they're going to have to like
every time you got to play that way to keep it
yeah,
warm so it doesn't tighten up, so he can stay loose. I mean, also that's what they're gonna have to do to beat him. They're gonna have to make sure that the run game can get going too. Like, I mean,
that's
so
going to be the biggest
yeah.
thing. Which I mean, they did. I mean, they did some impressive things against Cincinnati, but again, Cincinnati's not Philly. So, I mean, let's get to the nitty gritty. I mean,
All
it
right.
sounds like you're picking KC.
Oh
You have
no, I'm picking the Eagles. No, I'm picking the
you gave
Eagles.
all that talk about Patrick
Yeah.
Mahomes,
I
and
mean,
it's like,
he's
nah.
got to win it. I don't know that he is. That's where I'm going to the. No, I mean, I'm giving them their flowers, their props for sure. But like, no, I'm picking the Eagles. Yeah, no, I think that. I just don't think the Kansas City D. We didn't talk about that. I don't think there's any solution if with Hurts and that run game they got. I mean, it's just you can't. You can plan for it, but as we see time and time again, it doesn't matter how these teams plan for it.
Yeah.
They still seem to just shove it down people's throat and say, "Would you like another? Here you go. Here's another. Here's another one."
And
So
yeah.
go ahead.
I was gonna say I'll play devil's advocate a little bit because I
Okay.
too am picking the Eagles, but playing a little devil's advocate, the thing that Kansas City has going for them is that this is Jalen Hurts for Super Bowl. He's gonna have jitters.
Right.
And can you rattle him early? Can Chris Jones continue to be the monster that he is and just wreck a game plan? Because he's the type of defensive player where like, hey, he gets hands on you and
Right.
you're going down.
Well,
Like,
to your point, this talks to the experience of it, right? We didn't really touch on that either, right? The experience of Andy Reid, the experience, right, of Mahomes, and that
mhm.
whole team that has been here before. There's a lot to that. Who was talking about it? I forget who, but it's a different week, right? All the press up to it, the way in which Andy prepares his team because they've been there before, right? They put in all their plays last Friday and they did their last walkthrough as if the game was last Saturday. So
Yeah.
like they've already got it in, and so again like what Sirianni? Oh gosh,
Sirianni looks like a madman though. Like he just looks like
he does, but like, is he gonna shoot his wad this week and then be exhausted by Sunday? Maybe. Right?
that's true.
You got to. Hey, it's a marathon at this point, right? You got to get to the game. These guys, from what I'm seeing, these Eagles are all hype. It's like, how emotionally drained are you going to be by the game time, right? You might have a good first like half quarter, but then your emotions, how high, right? So that's another thing that Kansas City has over the Eagles. So that's yeah, but I still
It
think
becomes
I'm
a
pick.
thing. It
I still
becomes a
think I'm
thing of like,
picking the Eagles.
can Philadelphia take a punch in the face? Like right, like if yeah, to your point, if Casey comes out swinging and they come out and they deliver a hey 80-yard just
MVS,
march. No, I mean just like 80
Kadarius
yard
Tony.
march down the field, just like march down the
I'm kidding.
field and like your defense isn't getting any stops. Like you're not even seeing third downs. Like it's just like first, second down type of like chunk plays. Yeah, that could be a little like deflating to you. And you're gonna have to hope that like the youth and on the as far as the youth within the players and the youth and the coaching staff can kind of rally those guys together and be like, hey, we still have the talent here to make it a game. Um, but like you, like I'm taking Philly, man. I think that defense is going to be the equalizer. I think even if Jalen Hurts is struggling at any point in time, that defense can like they can condense the field. They can give him some short fields to work with. They can kind of force some turnovers, and at the very least, make it very difficult on Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah. I just hope it's a good game, right? I think it will be. I think it'll be back and forth, but yeah, we'll see what Eagles team we get. I think we can count on the Chiefs to be the Chiefs.
Mhm.
And it's just, yeah, to your point of how Hurts, can he, is he going to get rattled? Is he going to be, the light's going to be too bright, man? Those are bright lights. That's the Super Bowl.
I mean, yeah, you're going up against a quarterback that can. I mean, again, lightning in a bottle. He can score in a flash.
Yeah.
So you got a score prediction?
No, I don't.
I don't either, because like I the first thing that came to mind was
Let me
thirty-five
see what,
twenty-one.
let me see what the line is. And I know the line was 1.5
I know it's close.
Eagles.
Like I know the line's gonna be close because like I mean you're talking about the Super Bowl here.
Yeah, but it's still one of the closer ones um, of recent memory, I believe, in regards to spread. I want to see what the over-under is, and then we can talk about it. All right, the over-under 50.5 points.
Yeah, so mine's will be over.
Yeah, and so what was yours again? What'd you say?
The first thing that came to mind was 35-21.
35-21 Eagles?
Yeah. I got some defensive touchdowns, and it's not just like Jalen Hurts going crazy.
Defensive tutties? Mahomes is throwing pick sixes, or is he fumbling?
Running back fumble, probably like a tip pass, like it's like just right in the breadbasket of somebody. They're able to run it back for a touchdown type of stuff.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. I don't. I would go more 27-31. This is a field goal game. This has got Bucker written all over it. And I don't know why, but it's just sticking to my head. That's just, I don't know why. He's had that ankle issue this year. He's been okay, like, down the stretch. I just have this weird feeling it's coming down to a field goal. Gee, what a surprise.
Again, it very well could. And, like, I just think, like, at the end of the day, I think it's going to be exciting. Like we're talking about. It's going to be nothing but pure excitement from both of these teams. I think you're going to see some offense. I think you're going to see some great defense at times. But I do think the Eagles kind of pull this one out.
Yeah, I think so too. But it'll be a close one, I think.
No, absolutely.
Because even if it's not, I mean, Mahomes, they'll come back, right? Regardless of what it is. Like if the Eagles go up, like they'll play defensive, and then Mahomes will. It's gonna be close. It'll be close. Yeah. Anything? Oh, okay. All right. Super Bowl. Now that we're on this is a fun topic. Celebrity appearances. We did this last year. Remember?
Oh, yeah, we did.
Celebrity appearances. What celebs will be there? And Gian wanted to add in too. Since he wasn't here, he wanted to say which CEO of any of the commercials will not have a job next year after this. And he's referring to FTX, the cryptocurrency CEO is in jail for and so they had like all the ads last year with like Matt Damon, and like they had spent millions. Yes, and then he lost all this money, and I told John it's because he spent it all on Super Bowl commercials. And then hilarious. Crypto tanked, and he had nothing to. Yeah. So anyway, he's in jail. So I said we wouldn't do that, but we would do celebrity appearances. So celebrity appearances. Also, I got a sneak peek real quick at Mark Bernstein. 1-800-CALL-SAM is going to have Super Bowl spots this year. So
good Lord!
I got to sneak a peek. Actually, very entertaining. Shout out to D-Mac and crew. Yeah, that was pretty funny. So celebrity. All right. So I'm going to ask you celebrity appearances. Who do you think will be there?
I'm gonna go with a layup on this one, and I'm gonna say Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart. Philly.
Yeah, Philly. So I'm gonna go with easy layup. Kevin Hart.
Kevin Hart. Okay. All right. I think we do a back and forth as far as we can go. So Rob McElhenney, the guy who is on It's Always Sunny, Mac. It's on Always Sunny. He owns, co-owner of Wrexham FC with Ryan Reynolds. So they bought that club. For those that haven't seen the show, We Are Wrexham, it's actually really entertaining. So they bought the oldest English club, and they've refurbed the whole facility. They brought in new top soccer players. They're relegated. So in soccer, right, the Premier League, the top teams, if you keep losing, you go into a different division. And in a different division, you can keep losing, going all the way, get relegated to the bottom league. This team was at the bottom of the bottom. And so they flipped them around. This is season 3. And they are in the FA Cup, and they are playing Sheffield. And if they win, they'll play the Tottenham Hotspurs, which is a really good team. You know what I mean? They're like the Premier League. So if they play them, they'll probably lose. But they're already in 3 years got them up, kind of competing where they shouldn't be. They should be getting out of the bottom league this year too, which is huge. So again, it's on Hulu. Check it out. It's a fun watch because those guys are crazy. But anyway, Rob McElhenney, he's Mac, and he did a whole Patty's Pub like bar tailgate outside. He had the whole, like a real bar, like in the parking lot. And they were filming it because the Wrexham game played before the Eagles-ass game. So anyway, so he will definitely be there. All right, you're up. I gave you enough time to think about it.
Again, I'm going to take another easy one. It may be easy. I'm going to say Will Smith.
Will Smith?
Yeah.
Arizona, Will Smith. Oh, yeah. Yeah. What's up, Pride of Detroit? That honestly scared the shit out of me.
I was like wondering too. I was trying to remember what the hell.
What did I break? What did I break? So thank you, you guys. Appreciate it. Appreciate you. Speaking of that, we need to get you guys on here. There's a sign up list right here. Sign up for. We'll give you hall passes.
For our off-season talk.
Right. We're gonna bug you guys. Eric, Jeremy, and team, all of you. So yeah, dude, that scared. I was like, what did I break? Because we were going live. I'm like, oh no, I didn't think I hit a button.
True newbies to streaming, like right here.
Live streaming, yeah, Streamlabs. Okay, all right. So then I think. Oh my gosh, Marky Mark Wahlberg. Isn't Wahlberg gonna show up?
I don't know. It's a Philly one. Usually, I mean, if this is like the Patriots, I'd be like, that's a given. But Mark Wahlberg does seem like the type of guy that would like spend money on the Super Bowl, even though like his team isn't in it.
A little bit. Okay, so then having said, all right, let's flip it to musicians. I bet Drake will be there.
Oh, Meek Mill, easily.
Meek Mill, for sure.
I'm trying to think of the girl's name that was in the new Jenna Ortega, just because like she's like the new like hot name in like actresses for her role in Wednesday. So I'm gonna say Jenna Ortega as like my just off the wall person.
Yeah, who else? Sylvester Stallone. Rocky will show up.
Kidding. You would think, right?
He should if he wants to market. If Creed. What's his face? Who plays
Michael B. Jordan?
Yeah, Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan.
I could see it.
To promote,
he's a Cali kid, but yeah,
he is. No, for sure. Just to promote the movie.
Yeah,
because that's coming out. I think that's coming out March 1st, ish. Maybe.
Okay.
It's coming out soon though. I am gonna go to theater to check that one out.
But yeah, that's a hefty list. I mean, there's always going to be
Will Ferrell. Will Ferrell.
Is Will Ferrell like a football fan? Like if this was like the NBA Finals, I could see it.
Will Ferrell. He's been going to, because I think Rob will bring him. Says Will Ferrell was.
Gotcha.
He went overseas to watch Wrexham, so I think Rob will get him. Over, I think. Okay. So then if Rob's there, I wonder if Ryan Reynolds will be there and Will Ferrell, and then like David Beckham was also with them, but that was for soccer. I don't know. There'll be a lot of people. It should be interesting. Not as much as LA last year though. That was
LA was
everybody.
I don't know. I feel like LA was a little disappointing. I expected more from LA.
Well, a lot of people expect more from LA, especially the fans this year. Sorry.
That's true. We appreciate you sucking this year, though.
Yeah. Thanks. Well, we'll pick that up. Anyway, yeah, so that's it. Anything else? Anybody out there on the chat? Nothing else. We're gonna wrap this puppy up today.
Yeah, we promise our live streaming is going to get better. We will be adding emotes, all the things to make for those of you guys that are on Twitch, that'll make your Twitch experience so much better. Again, if you are new to whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're watching on Twitch, please hit that follow button. Please hit that subscribe button. Again, we are just trying to grow our following. And I mean, again, any type of feedback that you guys have for us so that we can continue to make this an amazing show for you guys.
Yeah,
obviously we have a good time.
Good, bad, and ugly. We'll take it.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Well, yeah, I think that's it. Well, thank you, everybody out there watching right now. We appreciate you. Whatever you're drinking, enjoy it. And if you're not, enjoy that water, like me. And, I hope everybody has a good week. Shout out to the crew. Shout out to the fam. Shout out to Gian and all what he's going on, what everything he's got going on. It's just lots. And yeah, Super Bowl week. So let's get it in. I kind of want to get this done with so we can start, moving forward. It's
Off-season talk. We can finally just
to
like
not
really
be in
start.
the playoffs at all because it's like it's just all the added time. Yeah. But Meko?
Yeah. No, man. Yeah, shout out to you. Shout out to the family. Again, shout outs to everybody that's watching. Again, please be sure to hit that like, that follow, that subscribe button. Leave us a comment. Give us some feedback. We appreciate you guys so much. Huge shout out to Gian. We miss you. But again, we definitely understand everything that you have to take care of. And yeah, go Eagles.
Go Eagles, right? I think
All I got to say on it.
I might have to throw a couple bucks on Kansas City just in case.
Hey man, you gotta hedge your bets.
I gotta hedge them. All right, so thanks everybody. That's it. This is the Questionable Podcast out.